At this time, I'll call the meeting of the Marshall City Council to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. The special welcome. We have a group here in attendance, the Growing Local Emerging Leaders Program. That's a program that's sponsored by the Southwest Initiative Foundation. So welcome. So we're glad that you're here. Glad everyone's here. So we have an agenda before us. Are there any changes to that agenda? If not, we'll operate under that agenda. The first item then would be to consider the approval of the minutes of our last meeting. That was held on July 8th. The council does have the minutes of that meeting. Are there any corrections?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by C, seconded by John to approve the minutes as they have been presented. We'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting.
See if I made it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was being slow. Okay. We both
And the motion does pass. We'll move then to agenda item number 2. This is our award of bids for the C Street Southview Drive Trail Project. We'll consider the resolution that would accept the bid and award the contract. I'll call on City Engineer, Director of Public Works, Jason Anderson, to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we should have a drawing on the screen there. That's the path of this trail project between C Street and down to Southview Drive and then over to Main Street. This is a project that it's been many years in the making. We applied for funding back in 2020 for this project. But generally a 10-foot wide trail along Progress Drive down to Southview Drive and then 8 feet wide over to Main Street. And you'll note the little link over to the elementary school as well. We did receive bids for this project on July 8th, and we had 5 bids that you have in the tabulation in the packet. The low proposal was submitted by A&C Excavating LLC of Marshall in the amount of $337,825.35. As a reminder to the council, this project is 100% grant funded for construction costs. We've got both federal and state funding on this project. And as such, with the 2 different funding sources, we have to go through a few more steps to get everything in place before we can move forward. So at the next council meeting, we'll be bringing forward a state grant agreement. We've got to do an award first, take a few steps in the back end, and then we'll come back with a state grant agreement. So with that, I can turn it over for any questions. The only thing not grant eligible, I'll point out, is engineering fees. And we did put in an advance request for municipal state aid funds, so we may seek to choose to be reimbursed for our city engineering costs as well. But staff would look for a recommendation to award the project contingent upon successful grant agreement execution.
And the material is concrete?
It is concrete.
That was my question.
Any questions for Jason?
Nope.
If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion for the resolution to accept the bid and award the contract.
Approval.
A second.
Motion by Craig, seconded by Amanda. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. What do you anticipate Jason, the construction period to be?
We're still working and discussing that with the contractor, but we anticipate that they would probably start yet this fall, late summer, early fall. Likely not completed this construction season, but it's possible. We'll see how it goes. The deadline is into next year.
Very good. Thank you. We'll move then to the consent agenda. We'll bring the items up on the screen that are on the consent agenda, and they include consider the approval to change the regular meeting on December 23rd to December 16th. Consider the approval of the amendments to the Personnel Policy Manual, the introduction of the ordinance to request to rezone property located at 201 Legion Field Road from R1 Low Density Resident District to R4 Higher Density Multiple Family Resident District. Consider the approval declaring the Sounds of Summer as a community festival. Also with Sounds of Summer, consider the request for the private use of public streets and parking lots for the Sounds of Summer dates, which is August 20th to 24th, 2025. Consider the request for the street closure for the Arts and Living Festival on September 26th to September 27th. Consider the authorization to receive quotes for the sanitary sewer repairs in the Viking edition. And then finally, consider the approval of the bills and the project payment. So is there any member that wishes to have any item removed from the consent agenda for purposes of separate discussion?
I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Amanda, seconded by Craig to approve all of the items on the consent agenda. We'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll move then to agenda item number 11. Consider the resolution approving the issuance of the city public utility revenue bonds in the proposed aggregate amount of $19,765,000 and authorize certain other actions to be taken by the Marshall Municipal Utilities Commission with respect thereto. So I'll call on Director of Administrative Services, E.J. Moberg, to present this agenda item.
Thank you. So you'll see there that this is to, the purpose of this is for 4 diesel-fired distribution electric generators in the city, as well as then some of to reimburse themselves for some water main improvements related to the College Drive project that have been paid. On the line tonight should be a couple people from Baker Tilly, one that represents the city, one that represents MMU, and MMU General Manager David Shelkoff is here as well if there are questions about this. We chatted about these approximately a month ago to move forward to this phase. This is now authorizing, this would be the last of the city authorization, so this would give the go-ahead to MMU to go ahead and issue this debt for these purposes. The resolution also does, again, approves the selection of Baker Tilly. It approves Kutak Rock as bond counsel, both of which are also used by the city. It sets different terms in this and would allow the MMU commission to go ahead and make this final issuance. So again, if there are questions, we do have people on the line as well as present for council.
First off, questions.
Yeah, David, just a question for you about what capacity that this provides with the 4 diesel generators.
Mr. Mayor,
And we'll introduce Dave Shelkoff, General Manager.
yes, my name is Dave Shelkoff, General Manager of MMU. So there'll be 4 3-megawatt generators, a total of approximately 11 to 12, depending on how you look at it. This will be the first step in replacing our existing CT, what they call combustion turbine generator. It just ran today, actually, for testing. That particular generator is around 14 to 15 megawatts. And what this will do, it'll provide an emergency backup for the city. The existing CT is 56 years old. They typically go out of service around 45 years. So we've had really good run with this, but we've had great people working on it throughout the decades, and the last decade especially. We were able to keep that generator, the combustion turbine, for at least another 10 to 15 years. But at the end of that, we're going to have to say goodbye to it. And then we wouldn't have any emergency backup generation at all. I would like to add, if I may, is the financing of this particular generator, this genset, what we call it. Those 4 generators will be paid for by our power supplier through what we call a reserve capacity agreement. The generation that these 4 generators will create will help our power supplier with reserve capacity in the MISO footprint in this transmission area. So they're going to pay us to have them. Also, they'll continue to pay us with the CT that we currently have. And with those 2 payments, it's a monthly payment from our power supplier, Missouri River Energy Services, more than covers the debt and the maintenance costs of the new generators. So this will have 0 effect on our electrical rates, 0. Will not have any inflationary pressures on our rates. So this is a wonderful opportunity for our city to prepare for the future. These generators will last 40, 45 years into the future. So we will have something should we lose our power totally, and we will have an emergency backup for the city.
And along those lines, David, and thank you for that, I appreciate that, is that, so let's say that MISO has during their rolling brownouts or whatever happens, we've heard about that in other areas in the past. What portion of the residential load and the critical loads that aren't currently backed up for essential services in the community, how much will that 12,000 megawatts cover?
Well, that's a great question. So we have about 81 total. In the summertime, we have about 81 megawatts total load. Half of that is typically ADM. So the rest of that is about 40 megawatts is the rest is residential and commercial. And if we take a look at that, we can break that down even further. A little over 20 megawatts is residential. So if we had a 12 megawatt generating source, we could keep half of our residents on at a time. And then we would rotate that out and allow people to have their lights on, keep their refrigerator running in an emergency. And we would focus on residential at this time.
Sure. And that was kind of where I wanted to go with this, is just to alleviate some of the concerns about, as we hear there's, different stories and different points of view about the reliability of the electrical supply, and with AI coming and more demands being put on our electrical supply and electrical demands, just to kind of put to rest about the essential security for people to continue
Yes.
the basic needs that they have in a worst case scenario. So I appreciate that.
Maybe
Sounds
just two additional things if I could. First off, the solar farm, which is really under contract with your power supplier, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that at this peak will produce 10 megawatts
Yes, it will.
and with 5 megawatts of battery storage. So that also is reliability.
That brings 15 megawatts total online if needed in an emergency, and the
During
sun's
daylight,
shining, of
yeah,
course.
During daylight.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to take a night flight on a solar airplane.
And when we, talk about reliability, you're at 99. It's been several years since there's been a blip, right? Or-
Yes, well, we did have a blip, so we're at 99.99997 or 4. So, okay, so if I may explain that a little bit, we have one of the most redundant and robust electrical systems I've ever worked with in my 35 years in the electrical industry. It is an amazing system that brings great value. Many of the people in this room will probably don't even remember the last time their lights were off. We went almost 21 months without any electrical outages whatsoever to anyone in our community. Now, we did have a problem, and so that reset the clock a little bit, but we're way past 4 nines. So past the decimal point. To give some perspective on that, phone companies are only required to do 999, 3 decimals past or 3 numbers past the decimal point. So we have a very, very new and modern system. We have great people that maintain it and install it and run it for us. And so at the end of the day, combine that with our load control system, we have a very, very modern system that's ready for the future and provides great service to our customers.
And that really is a resultant of leadership and investments that have been made in the past
Yes.
on multiple sources of distribution of electricity coming into the community and then the underground distribution system. And
Yes.
that took some investment, just like this is an investment in the future.
Yes, it is.
Anything else for Dave, as long as he's standing here? Then back to the agenda item, the resolution would authorize MMU then to take the next step and issue the debts. Are there questions about the resolution for EJ?
I move approval of the resolution. Second.
Motion by Craig, seconded by John. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion passes. We'll move then to agenda item number 12, consider the adoption of the ordinance amending section 86-1, the definitions to address sober houses. So Ilya Gutman is with us to present this item.
Thank you, Mayor Council. There were several inquiries about sober houses in town, and there's already one or maybe even two now in existence. The state of Minnesota has recently paid attention to that, and there were some laws adopted by the state, but those sober houses are not licensed facilities. The ordinance treats licensed facilities as residential facilities and allows them in low-density residential areas. From the point of sober houses, the way they are treated right now, it will be just a rental facility and with no limitations on the number of people practically. So staff thinks that it would be really nice to consider sober houses as residential facility, and that's what this definition is doing. It's bringing it up into the residential facility fold and allows us to treat sober houses the same way as residential facilities, even though they're not licensed facility. So they will be treated the same as state licensed facilities.
Okay.
It went through the Planning Commission and through the LNO, and it was introduced in the last
Okay.
council meeting.
Any input from the Planning Commission, Amanda?
No, not a lot. Questions just about like why not just call it a rental house, but Ilya explained it, keeping it with the, what did you call?
To limit the number of people in sober
Correct.
houses.
So that was really the only question, so.
And any input from the Legislative and Ordinance Committee?
Yes, we had the director of Reunited, he's the one that owns these houses. He came and talked to us and really discussed the importance of sober houses, which really increases the success of these individuals living here. And they do work in partnership with Southwest Health and Human Services, so there's a lot of accountability there. I know some people are worried about, when you have that many people living together and the chances of relapsing, but the success rates are really amazing for this, so we think this is a good thing for the community.
Questions? So you have the recommendation from both the Planning Commission and Legislative Ordinance Committee. What are the wishes of the council?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by C,
I'll second.
seconded by Amanda. Discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll move to a vote. I'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. Agenda item number 13, consider the adoption of the ordinance amending section 86-248. This relates to outside storage to clarify the commercial display and sales lot requirements. Once again, Ilya.
Okay, so currently the ordinance treats all sales lots the same way, so it requires all of them to be paved. However, the review of that thing, staff decided that there is a reason to separate high-use sales lot and low-use sales lot. So as an example, for example, car sales lot is high-use sales lot because people come there a lot, everyone needs a car. But stuff like lawn equipment or maybe sheds, that's kind of a low-use areas, and because people don't buy them all the time and fewer people need them. So the suggestion was to change the requirements and not require those sales lot, low-use sales lot, to be fully paved, and just to provide the access within 5 feet of the displayed area. So it will still be accessible for people. It will still allow people to view them, but it will reduce the expenses that companies that sell those stuff will need to invest into this thing. So our recommendation is to make the code less demanding. And it went through the Planning Commission and through the LNO. And all of them recommended approval.
Okay, thank you, Ilya. And once again, any input from the Planning Commission?
No, not really. A lot of just about maintenance, and we noticed there's one new dealership on East College Drive, just asked about like mowing and maintenance and if there were any requirements there, but that was really the only concern, and it passed with no opposition.
And any input from the Legislative Ordinance Committee?
No, I mean, there was just some concern about a business having some pushback, but I think this is a good ordinance to have with the high usage that Ilya was talking about.
Okay. Did you have something?
I just want to add, I know our staff have talked to the business owner on East College Drive, and we've reiterated we're willing to sit down and meet. And if we had kind of an idea of a plan for the future for pavement, we'd obviously be willing to work with them. It's not it has to happen tomorrow type thing.
Right.
But to have a plan or idea would be really good. So that's just a follow-up to some of the discussion at LNO.
Question from the council? If not, what is the direction from the council?
I move approval.
Motion by Craig, seconded by C. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. Agenda item number 14, consider the adoption of the ordinance amending 86-96A Agricultural District and General Business District, Limited Industrial District, General Industrial District, all to update the billboard requirements. So, once again, Ilya.
So there were plenty of applications for conditional use permit for billboards lately. And there were some questions about that and some complaints that there are too many of them. So staff took a look at the current ordinance. We consider what other cities are doing, compared what Marshall is doing, and you have a spreadsheet there. So basically what the city did, what the staff did, we try to align our ordinance, billboard ordinance, with what other cities do. And it's kind of, yes, we'll be somewhere in the middle. So we change the requirements for the size, height, locations, and so on. So they're all there in the table. And all the ordinances, there are 4 ordinances being changed, and the reason being is that those are the ordinances where billboards are allowed by conditional use permit. In other zoning ordinances, they're not permitted, so that's why they're not being changed. So again, it went through the planning commission, LNO, and the recommendation was to approve it.
Okay, comments from the planning commission?
Biggest concern was just some clarification on verbiage about the city being able to use the digital signs for public safety announcements. So that's been changed. So no opposition otherwise.
And from legislative and ordinance committee?
I feel like I've been hogging the time. Amanda, do you have anything to add?
You're doing great. Keep it up.
There was just concerns that there's going to be too many, and so this is just a way to really control that, the overpopulation of billboards.
So, Ilya, do you once again want to go over the changes this will make in terms of minimum distance between the signs?
Between the sides, there's different distance to the residential district, and there are, you can see in the table, and also to the buildings. So yeah, there are some kind of things where the distances have changed, or there are some minimal change as far as the new requirements. But currently, all the existing ones will be still compliant.
Okay.
There's also a provision restricting the brightness, right, on the digital ones?
Correct,
They can
yeah.
only be so bright?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And as we always, since they were always done by conditional use permit, that condition was always part of the.
Right. Okay.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? If not, you have the recommendation. I'd entertain a motion.
I'll motion.
Motion by Amanda, seconded by John. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. I'll close the voting. And the motion passes. So agenda item number 15, consider the adoption of the ordinance amending section 66-102, the public sites and open spaces. Jason, do you have this? Oh, you have this, yes.
Mr. Mayor, we're going to start with the city attorney, just giving an intro and summary of the ordinance revisions, and I can add in if need be, so if that's okay with you.
And again, this was introduced at the last meeting, and we had a presentation on this at the last meeting. City Attorney Pam Whitmore.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. So as you cited, this is an amendment to Section 66-102, which is public sites and open spaces. And what this section applies when subdivisions occur in the residential or commercial districts. The purpose of this is to further having those facilities available for residents, especially when there's some increase in population or some changes in development from those subdivision. So making sure that we have those open spaces and recreational facilities and parks available. So this is not applicable to minor lot splitting, and there is an exemption included in this amended ordinance for previously subdivided land that's being re-subdivided without a change of number of lots, which was a concern that was addressed through LNO. So the options that are set forth are either for those subdividers or developers to have a dedicated area in their development for this green type space, or to pay a park dedication fee in lieu of having that. That is an administrative process working with staff, which is subject to the approval of council. And it also allows the developer subdivider to be able to request a reduction of those fees. The fees are based on the reasonable estimate of the fair market value of the land being developed or redeveloped as determined by the assessor. So they may request a reduction, but that reduction will be analyzed and then recommendation from staff with approval of council or denial by council, and sets forth criteria that council can look at when considering that decision. So this has been through LNO and available for any questions.
Okay, questions?
Just kind of looking back, and because how successful have we been in this policy previously in actually getting the fees collected on like the developments? Has it been pretty good or not?
I don't have the outstanding invoices in front of me. I know the balance, and I think it was in the memo at the end of 2024, was $42,000. This is, of course, is based on development. If we had more development, the fund balance would be greater. But I do think we've improved our communication with the timing of the invoice and then follow-up communication.
When typically is this due? Is this due at the transfer when like a lot is purchased, or is it due when the lot is actually developed and there's a structure erected?
Yeah, I think we've been trying to catch them when there's a sale of the land, and the last stop would be when there's a building permit application.
Sure.
And can I add on to that? So in our amendments, there's a requirement that it occurs before the approval of the plat, the final plat. So there's been some cleanup on that, so it's clear when the timing is. And if there isn't a plat, then the building permit for the primary structure on the parcel.
Perfect.
So that there will be clarity around that.
Good.
So that was the past practice with Carr Estates. When the plat was approved for Carr Estates 1, that's when the land was dedicated for Patriot Park.
Yeah, because I was kind of curious as to the stuff that like EDA's been selling out by US Bank and how that's worked. I think there's maybe been some confusion and resistance on that, and I just want to make sure we clean that up.
Right.
Yeah, very good.
Good point. Any other questions for City Attorney Whitmore or Sharon? If not, Sharon, you were going to present.
Well, I could add, I think City Attorney covered it pretty well. I'll just maybe state, besides the communication, we've done some comparison to many cities have this fee. It does in effect help reduce the burden on the general property taxpayer by closer placing the cost of this to the developer, so.
Good.
Any questions?
Very good.
If not, there's been no
I move approval of the ordinance amendment.
I'll second.
motion by Craig, seconded by Amanda. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll move then to Commission Board Liaison Reports. Craig?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Airport Commission and the Merit Commission both met. I was unable to attend both. However, I was able to attend a meeting yesterday morning with the at the Aquatic Center site to kind of look over how we weathered the weather. And I'll say that, there were definitely impacts there, but I think a lot of kudos to staff and to the contractors, and especially to R&G, who is responsible for drainage and pumping. They got at it when there was a obvious for needs. They aggressively went at dewatering, and I know there's a little bit of concern under one structure. And during the meeting yesterday, there was some discussion about how bad was it undercut. It was the main slab for the surge tanks for the water effects. And I know that they consulted with WTI Water Technologies, and they've got a pretty good solution in place, and it was one that was discussed yesterday. So kudos to how the site was packed and prepped, because even walking out there after all that rain, I anticipated being halfway from my ankles to my knees in mud, and I was able to tap off my boots before I put them back in my pickup, and we were on a lot of the site. So doesn't get a whole lot worse, and as a lot of our residents, my heart goes out to you if you've had impacts. I know even some of our council members have been impacted with the storm on Friday night and the subsequent flooding and backups. And so to city staff and everyone else, and to the people that were working on the Aquatic Center site, kudos, and to all the residents and tenants that are out there that have suffered impacts. Just, stay strong and take advantage of the opportunities that are out here to that'll assist you with getting, moving the flood damaged debris. And if you need help, reach out and ask. There'll be some volunteers and other things in place. So I know sorry, Bob, I ventured off there a little bit, but for what we went through, I think the city's doing well, and the people are good too. So I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Amanda?
Yes, the library board met last week, and they are finalizing their budget, and there has been a great deal of participation in their summer programs. So they're happy with that. And community services did not meet.
And Amanda?
EDA, well, we've discussed everything on planning commission so far. EDA met last week. Lauren said that she is going to be doing a bus tour again this fall in correlation with Welcome Week at SMSU. So hoping for a good turnout. Having daytime and evening bus tours. And then Stone Meadows, if you've noticed at all, is starting on building 2 and have a tentative lease dates for November. So moving along fast.
Very good. So the Fire Relief Association Board of Trustees had their quarterly meeting last week. First out, the performance of the fund is doing well. It's so the components of this fund are the income from the investments is one, the contribution from state aid, which comes from a surcharge on automobile insurance, that goes to the Fire Relief Association, which is a pension fund. And then the third source would be contributions from the city. So the contributions from the city is based on a formula that looks at the anticipated retirements that would be a drawdown from the fund, the performance of the fund, which would be the revenue, and then also the revenue that's expected from state aid. And then the difference then, or the result of that equation would be what does the city need to contribute. So for next year, budget year, our contribution is zero because it's adequately funded. So budget-wise, we have a zero contribution in our 2026 year, and that's because the fund is performing well, and it's not needed as a contribution. Secondly, the city, and we talked earlier in our budget work session about the library, the city does have an annual meeting with the county where we jointly talk about the budget, and that was the same budget that the library director presented this evening. So Amanda, as the liaison, and myself meet with the liaison from the county board and the county board chair, and then we reviewed the budget proposal. So we had that meeting also. Both the county and the city are very early in their budget process, so we received the information. The goal, of course, is to maintain the relationship that is, the operations is 2/3 funded by the city, 1/3 by the county, which is based on a formula that is really roughly based on what we used to call library cards, but really the patrons, the users of the library. So with that, John?
Yeah, it was a busy week. The public housing met last Monday, and transit committee met virtually, and that's a fairly large committee. And we didn't have a quorum, but it was a very good meeting. And then an EDA met on Wednesday, so
Very good.
been a busy week.
DEI met last week. It was the first time actually having a full commission, so we welcomed our 3 new members, so that was really exciting. We recapped Juneteenth. It was a great event. It was very hot. Somehow it's always very hot on that day. We had cupcakes, and I think the frosting was melting. It was so hot. And then National Night Out is coming up August 5th, 4 to 7. So the DEI Commission will have a table. So come and meet some of the commission members, and Sharon will be out there. And then Conventions Visitor Bureau did not meet this month.
Very good. We'll move then to council member individual items. C.
Anything?
John? Craig?
Nothing, thank you, Mayor.
Nothing.
Amanda. So we should actually talk, and you talked a bit about the flood recovery, and this will, Sharon, you and I maybe could cover this together, but I think everyone knows the kind of what the city's response has been from the Friday evening storm event. First off, National Weather Service has indicated that event, there's less than a 1% probability for 5 to 8 or even more inches of rain over such a short period of time. The other unique thing is that it was concentrated over Marshall, and you get very far out of the city, and the rainfall levels dropped dramatically. And even within the city, they varied up to 3 inches, depending on where you were at in the city. So a substantial number of homes were impacted by the stormwater, as well as the sanitary sewer system was overwhelmed. The pumping level I'll call it the activity level at the wastewater treatment plant was roughly 8 times what the normal flow would be on Friday evening. So it came down based on quite rapidly on Saturday. A lot of staff were there all night and through the day, both wastewater, streets, parks, that put in a lot of extra time during that time because it was an emergency. We did activate the Emergency Operations Center on Saturday morning. The declaration was made by both the city and county. We had excellent participation by the county. Their county emergency management director, Emily Cookett, and our emergency management director is Jim Marshall, our director of public safety. They worked very well together. County chair of the county board was participated, and the individual that's in charge of solid waste was participated, as well as the Lyon County Sheriff. I'm probably missing someone, as well as our normal emergency management staff, which includes streets, wastewater, engineering, finance, administration. We've all seen the Lyon County has stepped up with the debris collection site that is open through the end of the week, Monday through Fridays. It's with the hours, it's 3 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Yep.
There we are. And on Saturday, it'll be 9 to 3 p.m. And then if there's any more dates next week, it will be based on decisions that are based on the activity level there. And that's for flood damaged property. It's, whether it's carpet or whether it's sheetrock, it's not the general cleanup that would normally be handled through your normal refuse service, but it is the flood impacted. So
And it's a no charge also.
that is at no charge, and that's really due to what the county is providing. So recognizing that it's a emergency situation. Sharon, well, there's been substantial communication that has happened, communication with state officials, from the governor's office, the state emergency management. Sharon, anything you want to add that I missed there?
Yeah, I think it's a unique event because it just affected Marshall. And it puts us in a difficult, challenging position to secure funds for private assistance. We still do want property owners, both business and residential, to notify us of their damage via the Google form that we share via social media. We're going to try to get that out to additional people through other organizations. And I know Councilmember C. Mulesky had some good suggestions on that today, so I really appreciate that. We have had Lyon County initiate a request for volunteers through their state network. The benefit of the county kind of handling that is they have a system in place, registration, workers' comp, those types of things. It's in order rather than us having to go through that. One thing we may look at is, contact with property owners. We have close to 300 properties identified. We think it will be closer to 600. And unfortunately, because this affected basements, if you weren't out walking around on Saturday or Sunday and gawking at other properties, you may not know if they're affected. So that's what makes this also unique. It also means that other city services and requests hasn't stopped. So we still have, we're still responding to other requests for services, just normal everyday stuff. So that has put a little extra strain on staff as well. If it was larger or more visible, I think we'd get a little more space to kind of handle the response. As Mayor mentioned, we're in contact with state officials. Not sure at this time what that looks like. It does help to get feedback from those affected. I know I've talked to council members who've had personal experience, but some business owners and other property owners to really give visuals. I know, again, if you don't have this affected, you don't know what maybe a basement might look like, or sewage backing up into a home. So that kind of makes it real for those that aren't personally affected. So hopefully we can make a case to the state. Unfortunately, as we know, their funds are not what they were 2 years ago. That also adds another challenge. So yeah, we'll just kind of keep plugging away at it. We're really grateful for Lyon County and their leadership on this. As the mayor stated, Roger Schrader, the environmental services manager for the county, has been really great. We're going to assist that particular aspect of it as well, and provide some resources so it isn't just Lyon County doing it. And so just communicate. And I know all of our staff have had communication. We'll continue, as there may be more questions as we go along. Could have been prevented, or there's some remedies to this. I mean, we're always going to assess how we can improve our systems. We don't believe there was any failures on part of city equipment. To our knowledge, we have not, there wasn't any wrongdoing or major failures by the city. But at the same time, we don't want this to happen. One of the reasons we bond and have a lot of debt is to mitigate some of this. And without the $70 million in general obligation debt, this could have been far worse. And those are some of the things we have to think about, even though we get pressure and demand and criticism for some of that. And it does put a burden on property taxes, so we won't not think about that. But, for the businesses and private residents, we're looking at millions of dollars worth of damage too, and that's a cost.
Right.
Right.
That's what I wanted to add to your items, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, and when I was talking about our Emergency Operations Center, we've had two meetings. One was Saturday morning, the other was Monday, and Councilmember Schaefer, along with myself, participated, and also thank you, Craig.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could, I'd like to just a little bit on to what you and Sharon talked about too. And I know that you've done a lot of public information for social media. And for those people that might be listening that haven't seen that, again, if you've had impacts in your residence, in your home, because of the water, be very cautious and then of how you protect yourself when working with that. But also make sure that you're seeking out guidance in a number of different ways, either online or with the things that are out on social media. But it's important where like drywall or other things are impacted, that's removed far enough up that it's beyond the impacted area, that it's allowed to stay open and dry before you try to cover it back up. There's a procedure that goes so that you don't have mold. Flood, out of all the debris, natural disaster debris type incidents that you can work with, be it tornado or those types of things, flooding is the worst, in my opinion. And I've got a lot of experience in the past of dealing with debris and responding to flood incidents. It's a hidden impact to your residents if it's not properly addressed and remedied. And then think about all your appliances that if your furnace or your water heater, those things went underwater, you may not be looking at your furnace and thinking about it today, but in the fall, if it's had impact from the flood, it probably won't work. And if it does work, it may not work properly. So all of those things need to be checked out by responsible professionals that understand what's going on. So make sure that you really look at the damage that you actually have and make sure that you consider all of those so that you don't run into future problems. The whole flooding thing and having mold and the other issues of having things go underwater, there's a lot of hidden things that don't show themselves right away. So go deliberately, slowly, cautiously, and then just make sure that you're thorough with what happens. And if you're not sure, reach out and ask. There's a lot of information out there and people willing to help, so.
Thank you, Greg. And one of the things that we are planning is to have I'll call it some educational sessions on our social media, where we'll have some of our building officials that have expertise that can kind of share some best practices.
Perfect.
And recommendations. So anything else before I switch topics here? The other thing I would say, and Sharon did touch on this, I mean, there's other things then that needed to continue to go on, and one of those items was some of the CVB events. Between last week and this weekend, there'll be 61 youth baseball teams in town. So, and even last weekend, they were able to have a 31-team state tournament here, and so our Parks and Recreation staff, as well as the MABA volunteers, really did a nice job. They actually had to use fields they weren't planning to use, and things went well. And again, this weekend, there'll be another probably 30 teams that will be in town also. And then the Convention and Visitors Bureau and Red Baron Arena hosted the MS right across Minnesota. That was on Sunday night, Monday morning, and then that riders will return. This is 300 riders will return on Friday early afternoon, most likely, for their finish line will be at the Red Baron Arena. So there's other things that continue to go on in our community. It's a lot of busyness. So with that, we'll move then to staff reports. Sharon?
I don't have anything to add.
Jason?
I don't have a lot to add either. I would just say that you and Sharon both summarized the flood events pretty well. I would add that the street department did today supplement the the dump site with a wheel loader, one of our wheel loaders, to kind of help with the management of garbage being brought out there. So that was good that they reached out, and I think we're happy to help with that. And we'll continue to assess damage and the events. We've been out kind of documenting what went on, and as Sharon pointed out, there's no negligence per se, but it's just good to know what happened and to assess for opportunities for improvements.
Okay. And City Attorney Whitmore.
Nothing for me.
We'll move then to the remaining items on the agenda. They include the information items from the Public Housing Commission meetings, our listing, our report of cash and investments, our listing of building permits, as well as our listing of upcoming meetings. So with that, is there any other item to come forward at this meeting this evening? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
All motion.
Motion by Amanda, seconded by Amanda. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We are adjourned.